The Pope is on a trip to Africa. At the moment, he has already finished his stay in Congo and is starting his visit to South Sudan. The second part of the trip is even more difficult than the first, which was already difficult. During the Congo stage, he spoke out against the plundering of Africa, against the exploitation of its natural resources, in particular oil, mining, agriculture. He also spoke about the fact that the people who are forced to immigrate and often find death on the way. It is likely that these appeals of the Pope to put an end to the plundering of Africa, and also the appeals to the rulers themselves to put the end to corruption, which is the other great drama, the great scourge that crushes the continent's economy. It is like that these appeals will not have much results in any case. He is doing what he has to do. It is what he has to do. And his predecessors did the same. John Paul II was in the Congo, and Benedict XVI lived in 3 African countries. They spoke about the same subject and did not help much either. But Pope Francis, like the previous ones, is doing what he has to do. Denounce with a prophetic, clear and strong voice this plundering. Although it must also be said that the face of the plunderers is no longer only Western North America and Europe, but it is now being replaced by Russians, Chinese, and they are majorly. The Pope also spoke about something else that I think is important. He spoke about priest celibacy. In a place where a good part of the clergy does not respect it, does not comply with it, he said that celibacy is a luminous sign that helps to dedicate oneself more full to God, a luminous sign. I think it is very important that he defended priestly celibacy because it is not only valid for the Congo but for the whole world. The situation in Congo on this point is serious. Their bishops met before their Pope's visit and saw how he were going to present themselves to the pontificate with the situation of the important part of the clergy, but they did not dare to apply the canon law because if they did, there are so many of them that many parishes will be left unattended and at the mercy of the sects. It is a delicate situation, and the Pope, as with the issues of the corruption and plundering sources, also in this issue, he is not being listened to. He would probably not be heard, but he is doing what he must do. His mission is precisely to defend peace, to defend the truth, to preach the gospel, and even it is not listened to. In South Sudan, the stage is, as I have already said, even more difficult. South Sudan is a country that recently became independent. It is the last country in the world to become independent. It became independent from North Sudan, which has an overwhelming Muslim majority. South Sudan also has an overwhelming Christian majority. It is a very rich country with inexhaustible resources, and yet, since independence, it has been in a cruel civil war between Christians and a civil war which does not have a religious origin, as it used to have with the Muslim North, but has an exclusively tribe origin, above all between the 2 dominant ethnic groups. In these 2 years of the independence, there have been more than 400,000 deaths. The Pope brought together in the Vatican the main leaders, president and vice president, and on the ethnic group of the rival ethnic group, and made an unusual gesture, kneeling before them and kissing their feet. This gesture was wisely discussed and criticized because it was kissing the feet of the people who were responsible for massacres. He did asking, pleading for an end of these fratricidical and murderous war. The situation was not improved much. Now the Pope is in Sedan. He is going to repeat these requests. He's going to yearn again for dialogue, for peace, for the good of the people, and it is possible that it is a case of the plundering of Africa and of the fight against corruption and, unfortunately, the celibacy of the clergy. It is possible that he will not succeed and that he will not be heard, as has happened before, but he is doing what he has to do. His prophetic voice has to be heard. The results will depend on what those who should do it want to do. But the Pope is doing what he has to do, and I think it is a journey that has a lot of merit, not only because it is risky, but also because of his age. In the meantime, bad news continues to come from Germany after the Pope Francis' interview with the Associated Press, in which the Pope clearly stated that the German Synod is an elitist and ideological synod. The react of the president of the German bishop, Monsignor Batzin, did not take long to come. Asked in an interview by the journalist who asked him clearly, "Why have you been misleading the German people? You have been saying that these years that the Pope is in favor of the Synod, and now it turns out that the Pope says that the Synod is an ideological Synod where the Holy Spirit is not present. That is elitist." Batzin's answer was blunt. "The Pope must have said this to my face. The Pope did not dare to say it clearly to me." In the words of Batzin, was calling the Pope a coward, and in the interview, in addition, he said that they were not going to change, that they were going to continue to apply it because, according to them, what the Vatican had forbidden, as I said last week, it had forbidden the synodal councils. They had forbidden the synodal councils because they have authority over the bishops. According to them, this is not against canon law, even though 3 cardinals, among them the Secretary of the State, with a letter signed by the Pope, said that it was indeed against canon law. Well, the situation is so serious that for the first time in history, a president of an Episcopal conference insults the Pope, and the publicity insults him, calls him a coward, telling him that he should have said it to his face. Well, so far at least nothing has happened. It remains to be seen if an insult of the celibacy is going to be a no cause. Certainly, this is not the same as when one disagrees with something of the Pope's. There have been saints who have openly disagreed it, but this is not the case. Now, it is an insult. He calls him a coward, and he has also said that he's governing the church badly, because Batzin has said that the church is not governed on the basis of interview to newspapers and television, which is what the Pope does according to Batzin. I repeat, so far there has been no response from the Vatican, and it remains to be seen whether it is an open season not to disagree with the Pope on the point of another, but to insult him. The president of the Commission of the Laity also spoke this week and said that they will not bow down. She used this expression, they will not bow down to the imposition of the Vatican, and they will continue their path of the implementing the conclusions of the German Synod. In the face of all this mess and insults, says that they are going to disobey and that they did not care. Another German cardinal interviewed Cardinal Kasper, who was one of the ones somehow behind from the theological point of view of Amoris Laetitia, and he says that the German is on the verge of schism, that disobeying an explicit order from the Vatican put Germany on the verge of schism. It has also become known this week, and this is a very significant data, that all these issues not only offend these elitists, but that the German Catholic people have already become aware of the serious risk of the schism that exists 42% of the German Catholics believe that the schism will happen. Only 20% believe that it will not happen. 42% believe that the schism is about to happen. What the survey did not ask, and it could have been very important to know, it is, where will they go if the schism occurs? To the Protestant Catholic side or the true Catholic side? This is the situation. They insult the Pope. For the first time in history, a president of the episcopate insults the Pope and calls him a coward and tells him that he does not know how to govern the church because the church is not governed as he's doing it. He's insulted the Pope. It is not that he disagrees with this or that he does not agree with this point. No, he has been insulted so far, and so far, I repeat, it has been without consequences. I believe that the situation is so serious that it's becoming more and more urgent to pray. A schism is catastrophe. A schism is a great tragedy. We must ask the Lord that this does not happen, and we must also continue to pray for the Pope. See you next week, God willing.